You're mid-conversation with yourself again. Not the first one today, huh? Maybe the fourth or the 10th? Did you lose count because they all bleed into one another? The one in the shower, the one in the car, the one that started when she said something at breakfast that hasn't stopped squawking at you since? Every conversation arrives at the same place. The same question sitting at the bottom of it like a stone you keep stepping around. Can you save this marriage? Here's what's actually happening in that conversation. You're not listening for an answer. You're auditioning voices. Her voice, your father's voice, the therapist's voice, the podcast you listened to on Tuesday last, the friend who stayed in his marriage, the friend who left his one, the article that said men who fight for their marriages are stronger, the other article that said men who stay in dead ones are weak. Every voice has a verdict. None of them are yours. And underneath all of it, quieter than everything else, older than everything, there before any of those other voices arrived, you get your own signal. And it's trying to get through. And it can't because the noise is too loud. And you've been trained your whole entire life to call that noise wisdom. This isn't about effort or commitment or what a good man does when things get hard. This is about a man who has handed the most important decision of his life to a committee that he didn't elect. He's waiting for them to reach a consensus. They're never going to reach one. Now, I'm not here to tell you whether to save your marriage or not. That answer isn't mine to give, and it isn't theirs either. I'm here to show you how to clear the noise so that you can hear the one voice that actually knows, that actually has known for longer than you've been asking. But if you click off this video, the committee will reconvene. You'll hear the same voices. You'll get the same confusing verdicts, the same stone at the bottom of the same conversation that you'll be having again tonight. And that signal underneath all of it, your true signal, it'll get quieter. Stick around. You didn't build this committee on purpose. It assembled itself over years. Every person who had an opinion about what a man does in a marriage, every cultural message about what commitment and vows are and what it means to quit, every story you absorbed about men who fought for their families and men who abandoned them, every therapist who reframed your instinct as avoidance, every friend who stayed in his and called it strength, while every other friend who left his and called it freedom. They're all in the room and they're all talking at once. They're all certain. The problem isn't that they're wrong. Some of them are right. The problem is that none of them are in your marriage. None of them wake up next to her. None of them feel or know what it feels like to be in that house on a Tuesday evening when nothing dramatic is happening and everything is quietly, persistently wrong. They have opinions about marriages. You have data about this one. You've been treating their opinions as more reliable than your data because the opinions come with authority, social authority, moral authority, the authority of people who seem certain when you feel anything but certain. So you keep polling the committee. Well, what do you think? You keep adding voices. What do you think? You keep hoping that if you get enough of them to agree, you'll finally feel like you have permission to know what you already know. The committee doesn't grant permission. That's not what committees do. Committees deliberate. Committees qualify. Committees produce more questions to replace the ones you came in with. And while the committee talks, the answer sits in the silence underneath all of it, waiting for you to get quiet enough to hear it. Here's what happened to you. Now, not dramatically, incrementally. Society handed you a script for what a man does when he's struggling with a marriage. You fight for it. You show up. You do the work. Real men don't quit. Real men don't walk away from their families. Real men find a way. And you took that script seriously because you're a serious man, right? Because you take your commitments seriously. Because the alternative, being the man who left, the man who gave up, the man who broke his family, well, that's a version of yourself you cannot tolerate. So you've been performing this script. Therapy, conversations, date nights, effort, real effort, genuine effort, the kind that costs something. And some part of you, the part that's been running that inventory at 3 a.m., knows damn well that the effort is real, but the direction might be wrong. That you've been working hard inside a framework that was handed to you by people who needed you to stay manageable, who needed you to prioritize the institution of marriage over the truth, who needed you to confuse endurance with wisdom. Now, I'm not telling you to leave your marriage. I'm telling you that the voice saying stay and fight might not be your voice. It might be the accumulated weight of every message you ever received about what staying makes you and what leaving makes you. And until you can tell the difference between that voice and your own, you're not making any decisions. You're executing someone else's programming and you're calling it a choice. There's a signal underneath the noise. It doesn't sound like a committee. It doesn't deliberate. It doesn't weigh pros and cons or consult articles or even care what your father would think. It fires fast. It's clean. Before the first thought arrives to qualify it and stop you going anywhere. You felt it. You felt it in a half second before the committee kicks in and buries it. The moment you walk into the house and your body tells you something before your brain has time to translate it. The moment she laughs at something and you notice whether you feel warmth or distance before you decide how you're supposed to feel. That signal is not your fear. Fear is loud. Fear is the committee. Fear generates scenarios and worst cases and reasons and counter arguments. See how confusing this is? The signal is quiet. It doesn't argue. It doesn't justify itself. It just knows. Now, I spent years overruling that signal with thought. I told myself I was being careful, responsible, thorough. What I was actually doing was outsourcing the most important decisions of my life to a part of my brain that was running on someone else's program. And then I was calling that wisdom because it was loud enough to drown out everything else. But the signal never left. I just stopped being able to hear it over the noise. It hasn't left you either. Here's how you find it. Not through meditation, not through journaling, not another conversation with another person who has opinions about your marriage. Note that it's your marriage. It's this. Take every voice out of the room. One by one, ask them to leave. Your father, the therapist, the friend who stayed, the friend who left his marriage, the script about what real men do, the fear of what leaving makes you, the fear of what staying is going to cost. Clear the room completely. And in the silence that's left, in the split second before the committee member comes back through the door, ask yourself this. If no one would ever know what you decided, if there was no script, no judgment, no story about what this makes you as a man, if it was just you and the truth of what you know about this marriage, what would you do? That answer, the one that comes before the committee reconvenes, that one that arrives without justification or defense or explanation, that's not fear. That's not programming. That's not society's voice wearing yours. That's you. And the answer, whatever it is the only one worth building a decision on. The committee is not going to dissolve on its own. You're going to finish this video, and within 10 minutes or less, the voices will be back. The script will reassert itself. Someone will say something, or you'll read something, or maybe you'll just lie in the dark and the noise will rebuild itself exactly as it was. But that's not failure. That's how deeply this programming runs. Here's what changes after this. You'll know the difference. You'll feel the committee arrive. You'll notice the moment the noise kicks in and it buries the signal. And that noticing, that gap between the signal and the noise, that's where everything starts. You can't unhear the signal once you've heard it clearly. And even when the committee drowns it out again, you'll know it was there. You'll know what it said. And eventually, not today maybe not this week, but the signal will get louder than the noise. Not because the committee got smaller, because you stopped treating its verdict as truth. If this landed, if you recognize that committee, those voices, the signal underneath all of them that you've been talking over for months, the work underneath this isn't about your marriage. It's about the identity that was built to comply, to perform to the script, to call the other people's programming your own wisdom. That's the layer the identity excavation kit goes after directly. What's actually yours versus what got installed by everyone who needed you to stay quiet and manageable. This is a kit I built for people I hope to help like you. It's free, and the link to it is in the description below. If you want to do this work with me directly, one-on-one, your specific committee, that's in the description too. Can you save your marriage? Well, that's the question you came in with. Here's the only honest answer I can give you. I don't know. Nobody knows. Not the committee, not the therapist, not the friend who stayed or the one who left. Not the article, not the script, not some podcast, not some YouTube video. The only person who knows is the one who's been there before the committee assembled. The one that knows what this marriage actually feels like from the inside when nobody's watching and nothing's being performed. And that's you. Not the version of you running the committee's errands, not the version performing the script about what a man does, the version that fired a signal before the first thought arrived. He knows. Clear the noise long enough to hear him. That's the whole answer. That's always been the whole answer.